Previously on the 8-Question Show.
3-4 years ago, I could go to the tax sale and pick up a property maybe for like $3,000.
I bought a plot of land for $100
See?
tax sale.
I knew a guy.
Yeah, it was disgusting.
I had a
but
guy
it was
bought a whole
$100.
house for $3,000. We put a little bit of money in it, sold it for $150,000.
Can't afford, that's why I'm front line, hand the sword. I do this all for myself, not the cash or no damn award. I need intelligence to craft my bars. I need the medicine that grows effervescent from the hands of God. I need inheritance to slash the odds, create a pipeline to the well while you grasp for straws. 8 questions, 8 questions, 8 questions, 8 questions, 8 questions, 8 questions, 8 questions.
Yo. Welcome back to the 8-Question Show, where we inject knowledge in your brains by asking the right questions.
We are joined again by Real Estate Pete. The questions are getting intense. We're on our last 2 questions. Pete, question 7. Is owning a home still the American dream?
Yes.
Why?
Well, what is the American dream? You want to have freedom to make the choices you want to make. You want to have something of value that you could pass down to your children. You want to have something of value that maybe you can pull some equity out in the future. Maybe it'll be for college or, you know, any other reason. People refinancing their properties all the time. As time goes on, these properties are only getting, and more expensive.
For sure.
Things in general are just getting more expensive.
Yeah.
People are making more money. There's a lot more opportunities than there used to be 30, 40 years ago. So owning a home is probably the definition of the American dream.
You know what? I'm glad that you are a rich dad, poor dad disciple. Mm-hmm. Because Brian and I, we're business nerds, we're finance nerds, so we can talk about that all day. But then you see people like Grant Cardone, Robert Kiyosaki, and they say no one should ever own their home. It's like it's a waste of money. It's the worst investment that you can ever be. You put all this money into it. People think it's an asset, and
paid for by the large corporations who own 300 unit apartment complexes that need people to rent.
Exactly, right.
Paid for by that.
100%. So then I'm thinking about like having this conversation. My mind is starting to open up more. Real estate investors that have property need renters.
Yes.
So what is the biggest way to, because we actually had this conversation about the housing industry and everything that it supports in terms of, because it's 2 things, right? You have housing, then you have the lawyers, your mortgage, your insurance, your interior designer, the landscapers, the fencing, the pool.
All the things that go with it.
Exactly, right? You have all these industries that are built off of, or that comes from owning a home. Flip side of that coin, you have the real estate investor who's like, no, it's the worst investment you can ever buy in your life.
Right.
Come stay in my luxury apartment.
Yes.
Right. So it's like, so it's like I see. So when you have like these influential people out here saying that's the worst investment ever to buy a home, but then you look at what is their economic gain doing so? Like, so they almost like destroy the American dream almost to get people to rent, but it's for their own reasons.
Yeah. My question to him would be simply, well, how much property do you own?
A ton.
Exactly.
He said it. He has 9,000 units of people paying him $1,270 a month.
Okay. I also do want to defend their position too and get both of your reflections on this. I mean, simply put, there are so many people that all of their money is their primary residence. All of their money. If you were to look at their net worth,
it's all in their primary.
It's all in their primary. They don't have, they have a little retirement account. They got, Bitcoin. They got a car that went down in value, and then they had their primary residence. So I think with some of the big wigs that you were just referring to, they are trying to break the mold of when people are like, it's an investment, it's an asset. This is going to help me immensely. It's going to be the thing that solves all my financial problems. I don't think that's true either.
It doesn't. No.
I think that there has to be a healthy balance of viewing what the primary residence is for, and then realizing that in a lot of ways it's not an investment.
Mm-hmm.
It's the place where you and the family live. There's
Right.
there's value, there's beauty in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't consider it in an investment unless you're cash flowing it in some way.
100%. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But I want to hear Peace take on this.
Okay. Again, these guys own massive amounts of property.
This podcast is brought to you by Believe Elite Athletic Training. Believe Elite has transformed the minds and bodies of thousands of athletes. The nutritional coaching, strength and conditioning training, and mental performance programs are now available online. Work with owner and head performance coach John Rand, aka Coach JR, my good friend, to attain your goals and be the 1%. Coach JR works with some of the best athletes in the world. He can help you too. All you have to do is believe it. Apply online for a free phone consultation today by clicking on the link in the description.
If you're starting from ground zero, let's just say your dad was, the local barber in the area, and your mom was a housekeeper,
Mm-hmm.
and you grew up, barely making ends meet as a child. Where do you start? You got to do something. Where do you begin? And again, this is where the communication gets lost, because like that kid that I went to, he had all the criteria to buy a home, but he had no clue how to go about it, because again, he calls the realtor. Hey, I want to buy a home. Okay, are you pre-approved? No. All right, goodbye. Click. Because no realtor wants to waste their time. Go call your bank, get pre-approved, then call me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what most of the realtors do. They don't want to talk to you and have a conversation to educate you. So now let me go to social media. Oh, Grant Cardone telling me not to buy a house. Okay, fine. Maybe it's a bad idea. I don't really know why, but he's a billionaire and he's saying not to. Maybe I just won't.
Mm-hmm.
The miseducation is there on purpose.
Of course.
It's the same way like Walmart needs employees. So does Burger King and McDonald's. If everyone was super educated and didn't want to have to deal with that, they wouldn't be working there.
Exactly.
But these big corporations need people working there. So how are we going to keep, not to get into this, but hey.
Get into it, man. This is the 8 Questions show. We get real.
I believe the number, it's high. It's like 90%, but I could be wrong. Of prisons are privately owned.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, don't get into it. No.
We got to keep these jail cells packed. We have to, or else we're going to lose our funding and we're not going to make any money. So we have to do something. You don't think that behind the scenes there's like this push for just a little bit of violence? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
we have to keep these. We have to keep these units filled. It's the same thing. So if all of these homes were purchased during COVID, all of these multifamilies, all these big apartment complexes were purchased for the purpose of renting them out, we got to keep these units filled. How are we going to do that? We need influence, lobbying. It's almost like social media lobbyists to keep these, the big wigs getting paid.
You know what? I was looking at this because I agree that there should be a balance. I think that no, you should not go house poor trying to own something. Right. I understand it, especially because Brian knows this. Where I come from, we didn't have anything growing up, so something is better than nothing for us. But then when you get into that, you have to learn the nuances around that world. Mm-hmm. You realize that there's rules to business, there's rules to ownership, there's rules to finances. Mm-hmm. You just don't get in it and hope for the best. If you look outside of millionaires and billionaires who own businesses and other financial assets, you know what the biggest transfer of wealth was? Somebody who bought a home in the 30s for $20,000.
This is what I'm trying to say.
Sold. New York City is a perfect example of this. Park Slope, Brooklyn Heights. I have a client.
I was just gonna say. Yeah,
I have a client who was an artist all her life, made $15,000, struggling. Mm-hmm. Her parents bought a home in 1965 in Brooklyn Heights for like $40,000. Mm-hmm. You know how much the four siblings sold it for? $8.2 million.
Right. Shit. I've got.
That was her entire inheritance.
This is what I'm trying to say. I have a friend who his father came from the Ukraine with 5 cents in his pocket and bought like 8 brownstones.
It's a great price for brownstones.
Well, he didn't pay the 5 cents. He came. This is the story. Came here with 5 cents. Ended up purchasing these 8 brownstones in like the 60s, and now he's a multi-millionaire.
It's crazy.
So,
Yeah, in Park Slope, dude. My bad.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Cut your feet. In Park Slope back then, they couldn't even give away brownstones. So
Exactly.
So you guys are saying there's a grand system
100%.
that these people are making it seem like it's a bad investment so they can snag it under you.
Or snag it or use it to the... Robert Kiyosaki owns 7,200 properties that pay him rent. Grant Cardone pays $9,000. And for me just doing research on that end, I just signed up to see what reason why he's marketing himself so much. And I got the inside scoop of why that is. Also, too, outside of multimillionaires and billionaires who own assets and homes, the biggest transfer of wealth is when someone's parents bought a home way back when, and the children sold it and divvied up the money. So then they start with a head start, because now they may squander it, but they start with a head start. They may got out of debt.
Right.
They may, like my client, she got $2.5 million from that sale with all that. And her parents didn't make no more than $50,000.
And now is that the American dream or what?
That's exactly.
That is the American dream. Hold on to that property, because it may seem like a liability for grandpa, let's just say at the time, but as time goes on, the descendants are able to utilize
without question
that equity that grew because of the whatever happened.
100%.
Just over time, inflation alone.
Well, are you seeing, just with your experience in real estate, that there's less interest now in owning a home? It seems like there's more interest than ever. So if they are creating some form of propaganda, it doesn't appear to be working.
Well, remember, a lot of people who bought these properties during COVID were investors. The banks right now, I just sat with a good friend of mine and a mortgage lender, Christopher Hoban. We had a meeting at the Scranton Country Club. I must have been there for like 6 hours because he was just kind of breaking down to me, what's happening now, why the interest rates are going up, and what his bank is looking to do. They're sick of the second vacation home, 10% down conventionals. These guys got 3-4 mortgages already. We're looking for first-time home buyers. There are so many programs right now that will give you the money for the down payment, give you the money for the closing cost, and if you stay in the house for a certain amount of time, you never have to pay back.
The closing costs and everything, and the down payment.
Well, even now, even before like this whole incentive, they were there, but they weren't popular. And the biggest thing is something called a seller's assist, which I use a lot, typically for first-time home buyers, where they will give you 6%. The bank will give you 6% of what the home is worth to put towards your closing costs. And they just put it on the back end of the mortgage. So you just pay that off.
Exactly.
Another thing too that, maybe we'll get into in a little bit, which I think is the biggest misconception, is that owning a home is more expensive than renting one. My mortgage is $977 a month for a 4-bed, 3-bath house.
Sure. I'm jealous.
I was paying $1,800 a month for a 1-bedroom in Islandia in Long Island, Suffolk County.
I think it's to that point though. It is location.
Sure.
It is location.
Even in Long Island, mortgages. Remember, even with the taxes wrapped up in it, the home insurance wrapped up, mortgages are about $300 to $400 right now. 2022 stats, $300 to $400 less than the average rent, the average mortgage.
You know why?
Why?
I just learned that. I'm getting my CFP, so I'm kind of.
Ooh.
Let's go.
You know why it's so, like, if you're it takes so long for a foreclosure to happen.
Why?
So mortgages are backed by Ginnie Mae. Some of them are, most of them actually, but those mortgage securities are put into bonds. You see what I'm saying? So that's why even in the housing crisis collapse, because the reason why mortgage-backed securities was even created, because their bet was who doesn't pay their mortgage. So if the government is backing it and that's revenue for the government, why would I let the housing market falter to a point without guaranteeing it, right? In some kind of way. So even those
wait, repeat that. Break that down for our listeners.
So
because I got my Series 7 and I still couldn't follow that shit. Go ahead.
No. So Jeannie Mae is backed by the government. I forgot, like the
federal government.
Exactly.
If they default, they'll print money to back up the loan.
Bingo. Exactly.
Got it.
So for them, it's a push for people to own mortgages.
Okay. Why?
The revenue that's come back to them. So, and I think Pete can back me up with this. This is what my mortgage person. Mortgages get sold all the time. So it may be with Wells Fargo when you get it, and the next thing you know, you get a paper in the loan in the mail saying it's with FH loans or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
That goes into a security that's backed by the government. Right. So they don't want the people to do that, like rent all the time. So, and also too, you got to think about who's giving you the message. I think that's where the entire crowd has to look at who is if it's a real estate investor who's their entire business is based off rents. And they're telling you that owning a home is the worst investment ever.
Good point.
You got to take your lenses off, because like you said, some people just look at the status. Grant Cardone, Robert Kidd, they're billionaires. He wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad. Grant Cardone talk about real estate and how to invest in real estate. Did you know? I feel this is how I found out about Cardone. Now this is not bashing him, because he's done a great job in that. But did you know where he gets his capital from? He advertises to unaccredited and accredited investors. And an accredited investor is someone who has $1 million or more in net worth, excluding their home, or as a single person you make $200,000, or as a couple you make $300,000 in a year. That's an accredited investor, right? Unaccredited investor is somebody. So if you ever hear him talk, he'll say you can start investing today. You can start as little as $100 down. He's trying to tell them to do it with him.
You're right.
He's trying to be Jeannie Mae in a weird way.
That's why he wants to say that's why Grant Cardone's goal is to be the biggest real estate owner in America. That's his goal. So if I can get an unaccredited investors and accredited investors invest in my fund where we go out and buy property.
It's like crowdsourcing.
It's crowdsourcing.
Got it. All right. So Pete, bringing it back. Is owning a home still the American dream? Looks like it is.
It definitely is. And if anybody tells you otherwise, call a realtor, do your own research, see if the amount of money you're paying in rent, call a mortgage broker. Even if you feel you're not ready, say, hey, look, I found this nice house for $200,000. What would my mortgage be on it?
And for our listeners out there, just Google what outside of billionaires and multi-millionaires, what has been the biggest transfer of wealth in the past 60 years?
That is the American dream, is to accumulate money.
Exactly.
Accumulate wealth. And the biggest way that has happened through history has been real estate.
It's been the transfer and sale of real estate.
Yes.
That's the big thing.
Don't let them lie to you, Jack.
For sure. Listeners, again, thank you for listening to us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our show. And tune in for the final question, where we ask Pete, what is the future of real estate? We'll see you all next time
on the next episode of the 8 Question Show.
The future of real estate, as I see it, as an agent, may be at a point where real estate agents may not be needed anymore. During COVID, Zillow attempted to, I think they did purchase the software that we use, that the brokers use.
Whoa.
I seen this pattern of like companies, right? Would purchase these properties. They just go and just purchase a whole bunch of homes. And they would set up a system to where you didn't need a real estate agent.